On the burning planet Valis 9, a lone human soldier saves a fox-eared alien child from the fires of war, not knowing that his act of mercy will awaken an ancient alien law, binding him forever to her. And her mother. This is a human save my Vulpine daughter. Now our law says he belongs to us. An emotional HFY story of love, loyalty, and the bond that united two enemies across the stars. If you believe humanity's heart still shines even in war, then like, subscribe, and share this story. Because on SpaceThrillHFY, we don't just tell sci-fi, we feel it. The alarm tore through the silent night sky of Valis 9. A red moon hung over the smoking hills where human and alien ships burned together. Commander Ethan Cross pressed his hand over his bleeding shoulder as sparks rained from the ruined dropship behind him. He hadn't planned to crash on an alien world tonight. His mission was only to escort refugees, but the war had other plans. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard crying. Not a soldier's cry, a child's, weak, trembling, scared. He turned toward the wreckage, forcing his boots through the ash. Between the twisted metal, he found a small creature curled in a pile of debris, a girl with soft fox-like ears and a tail streaked with white dust. Her eyes, wide and golden, met his, half human, half alien, pure fear. She whimpered a word in her tongue. Valara. Ethan didn't understand, but his instincts did. He wrapped his torn jacket around her, whispering, "You're safe now." Blaster fire echoed from the ridge. He ducked, pulling her close. Above them, the night lit with streaks of blue plasma. His squad was gone, no signals, no voices on comms. Just him, the wounded sky, and the little Vulpine girl clinging to his chest. He looked at her again, small fangs peeking from her lips, eyes full of pain, and thought of his sister back on Earth. He couldn't leave her. He made a choice. Ethan sprinted toward the forest, carrying the child through smoke and fire. Drones passed overhead, scanning for survivors. He pressed her head against his chest and whispered, "Stay quiet, little one." The air smelled like iron and rain. Trees the size of towers loomed, glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins. Alien beauty mixed with the horror of war. Hours later, he collapsed beside a river. His armor was cracked, his shoulder burned. The girl lay beside him, trembling but alive. She touched his face with a tiny paw hand and said something again, this time softer. "Thank you." He smiled, not knowing she'd just given him a bond he could never break. A shadow moved in the forest. He aimed his rifle. From behind the trees, a tall figure stepped out, elegant, fierce, eyes like molten amber. Her fur shimmered under the moonlight. She was beautiful and dangerous. Armor of silver plates hugged her body and her tail lashed with anger. She looked from Ethan to the girl and her expression cracked. "My daughter." Ethan lowered his weapon. She was trapped under the wreck. I pulled her out. The Vulpine woman's gaze hardened. "You touched her? You saved her?" "Yes," he said carefully. "She would have died." For a moment, silence filled the forest. Then she stepped closer, her claws gleaming. "Human," she said, her voice sharp yet trembling. "Do you understand what you've done?" Ethan frowned. "I saved a child. That's all." The woman's eyes softened, grateful yet afraid. "Among my people, when one saves the life of a child, especially the heir of a clan, a bond is written in blood and law. You are now tied to us." Ethan blinked. "Tied? What does that mean?" She met his gaze with quiet intensity. "It means by our law you must claim her and me as your family. You are bound to us for life." The wind carried the sound of engines, human patrol ships searching the area. Ethan's mind raced. A moment ago he was just a soldier trying to survive. Now he was a guardian, maybe even husband by alien law. He stared at the child asleep beside him, her small hand gripping his sleeve. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. The woman stepped closer until the glow of her eyes reflected in his. "Nor did we ask for this war. Yet here we are." A blast sounded in the distance, a signal flare from approaching troops. She turned sharply, ears twitching. "Your people are coming. They will take her and study her and kill anyone who stands in their way. Decide now, human. Stand with them, or with us." Ethan's heart pounded. The little girl stirred, whispering again, "Valara." He raised his weapon, but not toward her. "We run," he said. "All of us." The Vulpine mother's eyes widened. For the first time she smiled. Then by the moons, human, you have claimed us indeed. As the human troops stormed the valley below, Ethan vanished into the glowing forest with his new companions, a wounded soldier, a Vulpine child, and the alien warrior who had just made him part of her world. Above them, the red moon cracked with thunder and the war changed forever. The forest of Valise 9 was alive in strange ways. Trees hummed when the wind passed, their roots glowing faintly like veins under skin. The air shimmered with silver pollen that danced like stars. Ethan moved carefully through the mist, every sound amplified in the alien quiet. Behind him, the little girl clung to his back, her small arms tight around his neck. The mother walked close, her steps silent even on the crackling moss. For hours, none of them spoke. Every breath carried the weight of exhaustion and unspoken fear. Somewhere in the distance, human scanners buzzed through the air, searching for survivors. Ethan's heart raced whenever a light passed overhead, but the forest canopy shielded them. He didn't know how long that would last. Finally, when they reached a dark ravine lit by glowing stones, the woman stopped. She turned sharply, her golden eyes glowing in the dim light. "You should not be here," she said quietly. "My kind do not forgive humans easily." Ethan lowered the girl to the ground and faced her. "I didn't choose this war," he said. "I just followed orders." She laughed softly, bitterly. "That is what they all say before the fire starts." The girl tugged on her mother's arm and whispered, "He saved me." Her voice was small but firm. For a moment, the warrior's expression softened. She looked at her daughter, then back at Ethan. "I am called Soraya," she said finally, "daughter of the Vulpine matriarch." Ethan nodded. "Ethan Cross, Commander Earth Alliance." Soraya's tail flicked once behind her, the motion quick and tense. "Then we're enemies," she said. "Maybe," Ethan replied. "But right now we're both just trying to live." The girl sneezed, breaking the tension. Soraya knelt to cover her with a fur cloak. Ethan watched the small warmth of their moment and felt something he hadn't felt since before the war. Peace, even if fragile. But it didn't last long. The ground trembled. From the trees, blue light rippled like a heartbeat. Ethan raised his rifle. "Drones," he whispered. "They've found us," Soraya's ears twitched. "Follow me." She dashed into the ravine, leading them through a hidden path beneath a waterfall. Cold mist hit Ethan's face as he pushed through the rushing water, holding the girl tightly. Behind the curtain of falling light, a tunnel opened, carved stone with ancient symbols etched deep into the walls. Soraya lit a torch from her armor's wrist unit. The flame shimmered green, reflecting in her eyes. "This is sacred ground," she said. "No human has walked here in 1,000 years." Ethan's boots echoed softly. "Then why bring me here?" "Because," she said quietly, "you saved my child. And the forest accepts your bond." They walked deeper until the air changed, cooler, heavier, charged with strange whispers. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern. Crystal roots hung from the ceiling, dripping light like rain. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, surrounded by markings glowing faintly blue. The little girl gasped. "The pact hall," Soraya's voice lowered. "This is where our ancestors made oaths that bound worlds together. You may not understand, human, but your act, saving my daughter, awakened the ancient bond between protector and kin. If my people find out, they will demand it be sealed." "Sealed?" Ethan asked. "What do you mean, sealed?" She turned to him slowly. "You will have to prove your worth, a trial. A human's courage against the forest's judgment. If you survive, you will be accepted as family under our law. If you fail, the bond ends with your life." Ethan's jaw tightened. "And if I refuse?" Soraya stepped closer, her breath trembling against his cheek. "Then they will come for her. My daughter will be taken. You cannot imagine what the matriarch does to those marked by prophecy." Before Ethan could answer, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. From the walls, eyes began to glow, hundreds of them watching. The light of the crystals dimmed as shadows formed shapes, like smoke solidifying into living beings. Soraya dropped to one knee. "They have come." Ethan looked around, rifle trembling. The figures stepped forward, tall, fox-like warriors, their fur streaked with gold. They carried staffs instead of weapons, but the power around them felt ancient and heavy. The tallest one, his fur silver as snow, spoke with a voice that shook the stones. "The law has been broken. A human stands where none should, and yet the bond of rescue is real." Soraya lowered her head. "He saved my daughter, Elder. He is bound by right." The Elder's gaze shifted to Ethan. You, human. Do you claim the bond? The ground cracked open beneath Ethan's feet. Then let the trial of shadows begin. Soraya gasped. No, not here, not now. The air tore apart. A blinding light swallowed Ethan, pulling him into darkness. He reached for Soraya's hand, but their fingers slipped apart. The last thing he heard was her voice echoing in the void. Survive, human, and come back to us. And then there was silence. Ethan fell into a place where time twisted and reality pulsed like a living heart. He didn't know it yet, but the trial had already begun. And somewhere, in the real forest above, Soraya whispered a prayer, that the human who had saved her daughter would return alive. For if he failed, both mother and child would be doomed forever. Ethan hit the ground hard. The air was cold and dry, the light dim and strange, like the sky was alive but asleep. He pushed himself up, coughing dust. The cavern was gone. He stood on cracked stone that stretched endlessly, glowing faintly with blue lines running like veins under glass. A deep hum filled the air, steady, slow, alive. He turned in circles, searching for Soraya, but she was nowhere. Only whispers, faint and far. Then a voice echoed through the void. Low, ancient, impossible to place. Human, your courage brought you here. But courage alone cannot bind what is broken. Ethan gripped his rifle. Who are you? Where is Soraya? The ground rippled like water, and from the mist shapes began to form, figures of light and shadow. They looked like warriors, tall and thin, with fox-like ears and glowing eyes. But their faces changed every second as if they were made of memory. One of them stepped forward. We are the echoes of the pact, it said. The guardians of truth. You entered sacred ground. You carry the mark of kinship, but you are not of her kind. Ethan's heart pounded. I didn't ask for this bond. I just saved a kid. Every act of rescue, the voice replied, writes a promise in the soul. You saved a life, human. Now prove you can protect it when the forest turns against you. The light flared, and suddenly the world changed again. Ethan stood in the middle of a burning forest. Trees screamed as fire ran through their roots, and the air was thick with smoke. Somewhere beyond the flames he heard the same child's cry, the Vulpine girl calling for him. Help. Ethan! He ran toward the sound. The heat seared his skin. His armor flickered and cracked, but he didn't stop. The smoke grew thicker and shadows moved through the flames. Dark beasts with red eyes, their claws slicing through ash. Ethan raised his rifle and fired, the blasts lighting the inferno in white flashes. The creatures vanished, then reappeared behind him. They were fast, too fast. One leapt at him. He swung his weapon like a club, striking its skull, then rolled aside as another lunged. He kept moving, calling out, I'm coming, hold on. The voice of the girl grew weaker. The world twisted, trees bending, ground shifting like the forest itself wanted him lost. Every step forward felt like sinking into sand. He could hear his own heartbeat, loud, desperate. He stumbled into a clearing. There she was, and the little Vulpine girl, trapped inside a circle of burning vines. She reached out, crying, Please. He didn't think. He ran through the fire, his armor catching flames. He grabbed her, shielding her with his body, and crashed through the vines. Pain tore through his shoulder, but he didn't let go. He rolled on the ground, patting out the fire, gasping for air. The girl clung to him, sobbing. It hurts, she whispered. It's okay, Ethan said softly, his voice shaking. You're safe now. The fire faded. The world around them froze, every ember suspended in midair. The child's image flickered, then vanished like smoke fading into the wind. Ethan looked down at his empty arms. She wasn't real. He breathed. The ancient voice spoke again all around him. You face the fear of loss, but the trial is not over. The world changed again. Now he stood before Soraya, but not the Soraya he knew. Her fur was burned, her eyes cold and distant. You saved her, she said, her voice like broken glass. But can you save me from what your kind will do next? He frowned. What are you talking about? Behind her, ships appeared in the sky, human ships, massive and loud. Bombs fell and the forest exploded in fire. Soraya's people screamed as flames swallowed them. She turned to Ethan, tears in her golden eyes. You brought them here. You doomed us all. No, he said, shaking his head. That's not true. Her voice rose, echoing like thunder. Would you choose me or them? Ethan tried to speak, but his throat closed. The forest burned around them, the air filled with cries. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. Prove it, she whispered. Prove which world you stand for. The sky split open. Light poured down. He could see his reflection in her eyes, half soldier, half something else. And then, with sudden calm, he understood. He dropped his rifle. It hit the ground with a heavy sound. If standing with you makes me a traitor, he said quietly, then so be it. The flames swallowed them both. Silence. Then cool air again. Ethan opened his eyes. He was back in the cavern. The light from the crystals burned brighter than before. Soraya stood before him, real this time, her eyes wide with disbelief. The elder was beside her. The trial has ended, the elder said. The bond has been tested. The human did not flee. He chose loyalty over blood. Soraya stepped closer, trembling. You came back, Ethan managed a weak smile. I said I would. She reached up, touching his face gently. Then the pact accepts you. You are bound to us, Ethan Cross, protector of the matriarch's line. He blinked, exhausted. What does that mean for me? The elder's expression darkened. It means the war will come for you next. Humans will not forgive this betrayal. The girl you saved is the matriarch's heir, and your act has changed the course of both worlds. Ethan's stomach sank. The little girl peeked from behind her mother's leg, smiling softly at him. He knelt, smiling back despite the fear building inside. I'll protect you, he said, no matter who comes. Soraya's tail brushed his arm gently. A silent promise between two enemies turned kin. Outside, the ground shook again. Above the forest, human ships entered orbit. The war wasn't over, it was only beginning. But now humanity had something it never expected. A soldier who fought not for Earth, but for the bond that defied the stars. The dawn on Valis 9 came like a whisper through smoke. Light filtered weakly through the blue leaves, painting everything in soft silver. Ethan sat at the mouth of a hidden cave. His armor burned, his hands still trembling from what he'd seen in the trial. The voices, the fire, the choice, they still echoed in his mind. He looked out at the forest where strange birds with crystal wings drifted in the mist and wondered if he would ever see Earth again. Behind him, Soraya moved quietly, her tail brushing the ground. She carried a bowl carved from stone, filled with glowing liquid that shimmered like starlight. Drink, she said. It will heal you. Ethan took it. The taste was strange and sweet and bitter, alive somehow. Warmth spread through his chest, knitting the pain in his shoulder. What was that? He asked. The sap of the mother tree, Soraya said softly. It accepts those who survive the trial. You are part of the pact now, whether you wish it or not. Ethan looked at her. So what happens next? Your people, they won't trust me. They won't, she said simply, but they will obey the law. You saved the air and the forest marked you. No one can harm you now. Ethan stared at his reflection in the glowing pool near his feet. And if I leave? Soraya's voice grew quiet. Then the bond will break and the forest will take you. No human leaves once accepted. He laughed softly, shaking his head. Guess that means I'm stuck here. Soraya didn't laugh. Her eyes, usually sharp, looked distant. Stuck is not the word I would use. Bound is closer. The child, Valara, appeared then, running barefoot down the slope, her silver-white tail flicking happily. Mama! Mama, look! She held a glowing beetle in her tiny hands, its wings fluttering gently. She looked at Ethan and smiled. I caught it for you. He smiled back, taking the insect carefully. Thanks, little one. It's beautiful, Valara giggled, tail swaying. Soraya watched them, something warm flickering behind her eyes, quickly hidden by her usual calm. But peace never lasted long. A sharp sound cracked through the forest, distant but familiar. The high-pitched pulse of human scanners. Ethan froze. That's Earth tech. Soraya's ears twitched. She moved to the cave mouth, her claws flexing. They've found your crash site. They will come here soon, Ethan stood. Then we need to move. Soraya turned, her eyes fierce. No, if they see you with us, they will call you a traitor. They will send hunters after you. And after us. I can talk to them, Ethan said. They'll listen. They won't. Her voice cut like a blade. Your people started this war to claim our world's core. They won't stop now. The ground trembled on faint rhythmic dropships getting closer. Ethan's heart sank. Soraya's hand went to her blade. We hide. Now. They moved deeper into the cave, through tunnels covered in moss that glowed faintly under their feet. The light dimmed as they descended, the sound of engines fading behind them. The air was cool, almost peaceful again, but Soraya's tension didn't ease. Finally, they reached an underground chamber where the roots of the great mother tree twisted through the stone ceiling. The air shimmered with energy. Valara sat beside Ethan, holding his hand tightly. Soraya faced him.
"If they take you," she said quietly, "they will use you to find us."
"You know too much now," Ethan nodded. "So what do you want to do?" Her eyes softened. "I don't want to kill you, human, but my people will demand it if they find you here." "Then what are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying—" She looked away, her voice trembling slightly. "I may have to choose between my blood and my bond." Before he could reply, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deafening boom followed, the sound of a missile striking above. The cave walls cracked. Ethan grabbed Valara, shielding her as rocks fell around them. "They're bombing the forest!" Soraya roared, her claws glowing with blue fire. "They dare strike the mother tree!" She sprinted toward the exit, Ethan close behind. When they reached the surface, smoke filled the air. Human soldiers moved through the trees in black armor, scanning with drones. Ethan recognized the insignia. 47th Earth Division. His division, he froze, torn. "I know them," he whispered. Soraya's blade touched his arm. "Then you will see what loyalty costs." One of the soldiers spotted movement and raised his weapon. "Contact, movement at 9 o'clock. Ethan shouted, "Hold fire!" But the plasma shot came anyway. It hit a tree beside Soraya, exploding into sparks. She hissed, her eyes blazing gold. In a single leap, she vanished into the shadows. When she reappeared, the soldier was already on the ground, his rifle torn in half. "Stop!" Ethan yelled, running between them. "They're not the enemy." "They are!" Soraya shouted back. "They came to destroy what you swore to protect." The rest of the squad raised their weapons. Ethan turned, shouting, "Stand down! This is Commander Cross, 47th Alliance." The soldiers hesitated, confused. "Commander?" "Sir, you're listed KIA." Before they could finish, a massive sound thundered through the forest. A deep, rumbling roar from beneath the earth. The mother tree's roots glowed bright blue. The forest itself was waking up. Ethan's radio crackled to life. "Cross, this is command. Stand clear. Orbital strike incoming on Sector 9. His stomach dropped. Sector 9 was here. He turned to Soraya. "They're going to wipe this whole valley. We need to move now." Soraya looked toward the heart of the forest, where the mother tree stood tall and burning. "No," she said softly. "If the tree dies, everything dies. Even us." Valara clung to her mother's leg, tears shining in her eyes. "Mama, please." Ethan stepped forward, gripping Soraya's arm. "Then let me stop it. They'll listen to me." Her gaze met his, fierce, desperate. "You are part of both worlds now, human. Maybe only you can end this." He nodded once. "Then I'll try." She pressed a hand against his chest. "If you fall, the forest will remember your name." He looked at the child, then at the sky where ships loomed like silver knives. "If I fall," he said quietly, "make sure she lives." Then he ran toward the light, leaving behind the alien mother and her daughter, who had already become his reason to fight. Above him, the sky burned brighter. The war for Valis 9 had entered its final act. The sky above Valis 9 burned silver and red. Ethan ran through the wrecked valley, the smoke thick enough to choke. The air smelled of ozone and ash. Every explosion painted the sky brighter. Every scream reminded him of what was at stake. He reached the ridge where the human outpost stood, a fortress of steel and blinking lights. Soldiers shouted orders, drones hovered like insects, and above them, the command tower rose like a jagged knife. "Commander Cross," one of the guards stammered when Ethan appeared from the haze. "You're supposed to be dead." "Yeah," Ethan said, brushing soot from his armor. "Get me to command, now." Inside, screens glowed with maps of the planet. Red zones marked the expanding forest. General Rourke stood in the center, arms behind his back, watching a holographic display of the mother tree. Its glowing roots pulsed like veins under the planet's skin. "Sir," Ethan said, stepping forward, "we have to stop the orbital strike. There are civilians down there, entire colonies of the native species." Rourke turned slowly, eyes cold. "You mean the beasts who butchered our first settlers? The ones who keep this world locked from mining? They're defending their home," Ethan said. "We're the invaders," Rourke's lip curled. "You sound like them. You've been out there too long." Ethan slammed a hand on the console. "Sir, listen to me. The mother tree isn't a weapon, it's alive. It's holding the planet together. If we destroy it, Valis 9 collapses. Everyone dies. The room fell silent. A few officers exchanged glances. Rourke's expression hardened. You've been compromised, Cross. We intercepted transmissions from your beacon. Bio readings linked to alien DNA. Ethan froze. What are you talking about? Rourke smirked. You bonded with them. The Vulpine mother and her child. You brought their code into your bloodstream. The forest accepted you, and that makes you a threat. Ethan's throat tightened. I saved a child's life. And doomed your species, Rourke said coldly. The pact you awakened was real. Our scientists decoded it. If a human joins the Vulpine bloodline, the mother tree recognizes both races as one and locks the planet from human control. The system won't let us mine a world that carries human Vulpine kin. You just destroyed Earth's richest claim in history. Ethan stared, disbelief washing through him. So that's what this war was about? Not peace, not security, minerals? Rourke's voice grew sharp. Do you think soldiers fight for ideals anymore, Cross? We fight for survival. The Alliance needs fuel, power, expansion. Valis 9 is the key. Ethan's heart pounded. You'll kill billions for profit? Billions, Rourke said softly. So billions more can live. The intercom crackled. General, orbital strike ready for final confirmation. Ethan's eyes widened. Call it off. I'll prove there's another way. Rourke raised his pistol. You're not walking out of here, Commander. Ethan moved fast, knocking the weapon aside. The shot fired wide, shattering a monitor. Soldiers rushed in, shouting. Ethan ducked behind a console, grabbing Rourke's sidearm. Don't make me do this, he shouted. You already did, Rourke barked, hitting the emergency code. Sirens blared. He's infected! Take him down! Ethan dove for the door, rolling as plasma bolts struck the walls. He sprinted through the hallway, alarms echoing behind him. Every corridor flashed red, the voice of the ship's AI counting down. Orbital strike commencing in 3 minutes. He burst onto the landing pad, where dropships were lined up like metal beetles. Soldiers ran in confusion. Ethan jumped into one, slammed the hatch, and started the engines. Unauthorized launch detected, the AI warned. Yeah, tell me something new, Ethan muttered, pulling the throttle. The ship roared upward. Through the viewport, he could see the massive orbital cannon charging, a sphere of blinding light forming above the atmosphere. He switched on the comm. Soraya, come in. Soraya, do you read me? Static. Then her voice, faint but urgent. Ethan? The sky burns, and what have they done? They're firing on the tree. I'm coming to stop it. You can't stop a cannon from the ground. Who said anything about the ground? He said grimly, steering toward orbit. Lightning streaked past as he broke through the cloud layer. The orbital platform glowed ahead, surrounded by defense drones. Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. Come on, old man, he muttered. You taught me to fight for something real. Let's see if I learned. The ship shuddered as lasers struck its hull. He dodged, weaving through debris. Systems screamed warnings. The platform loomed closer, a ring of metal with a glowing core aimed straight at the planet. 50 seconds to firing sequence, said the AI. Ethan hit the thrusters and crashed the dropship into the side of the platform. The impact threw him from his seat. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the cockpit. He coughed, pulling himself up, grabbing a plasma torch. The hatch burst open. He staggered into the corridor, surrounded by flashing lights and chaos. He ran toward the main control deck, his body screaming in pain. 2 guards appeared. Ethan fired twice. They dropped. 30 seconds to firing sequence. He reached the core room and a chamber of glass and light. The cannon's energy pulsed like a living sun. He slammed his hands onto the control panel. Locked. Command code required. Rourke, it's me, he said through the comm. Call this off. If you fire, the planet dies. We all die. Rourke's voice came cold and steady. You made your choice, Cross, now we make ours. The countdown hit 10. Ethan looked at the glowing reactor. His reflection stared back, half human, half something new. He pulled the core stabilizer from his belt, slammed it into the system, and twisted hard. The platform shook violently. Energy overloaded. The countdown stopped at 2. The explosion was silent. A white flash swallowed the sky. From the forest below, Soraya watched the light bloom above the clouds. Valara clung to her, crying softly. The roar of the blast reached them a moment later, shaking the ground. Soraya whispered, He did it. The fire faded. The cannon was gone, But the sky rained debris, and somewhere in that falling light, Ethan's ship vanished from every signal. Soraya looked up, her heart breaking. By the moons, human, come back to us. The sky above Valis 9 glowed for 3 days. Where the human orbital cannon had been, only fragments drifted now, silent, burning, falling like silver rain. The war stopped not because of peace, but because no one knew what had just happened. On the ground, the mother tree still stood. Its roots shimmered faintly, its light weak but alive. The forest whispered again. Soraya sat by the river, her armor scorched, her eyes fixed on the sky. She hadn't slept since the blast. Valara rested against her lap, small hands clutching the same piece of metal she had found among the falling wreckage. A human dog tag.
Ethan Cross, he promised, Valara whispered. He said he'd come back. Soraya's throat tightened.
Humans make many promises. But her voice cracked halfway through the sentence, and she looked away quickly so her daughter wouldn't see her tears. That night, the forest changed. The wind carried a low hum, deep and steady like the heartbeat of the planet itself. The blue roots of the mother tree brightened again. The ground pulsed once. Then something broke the surface of the sacred lake. A capsule, small, burning, falling like a comet, crashed into the water. The shockwave rippled across the valley. Soraya was already running before she realized it, her heart racing faster than thought. She dove into the lake, her claws slicing through the glowing water. When she reached the capsule, she ripped it open with trembling hands. Inside, covered in frost and blood, lay Ethan. He wasn't breathing. No, she whispered, pulling him into her arms. No, no, no. She pressed her forehead against his chest. You promised me, human! For a moment there was nothing. No sound but her own voice echoing in the cavern of light. Then faintly a cough. A breath, Ethan's eyes flickered open. He gasped, confused, looking around. Soraya. She froze. Then she laughed through her tears. You really don't know how to die, do you? He smiled weakly. I was never good at following orders. She pulled him close, her tail wrapping around him. You stopped the strike. You saved the tree. I wasn't trying to be a hero, he said softly. I just didn't want to lose you. The water around them shimmered. Light rose from the depths, wrapping them both. The tree was healing and recognizing him. A bond forged by choice, not by law. Later, when Ethan woke again, he was inside the heart of the forest. Valara sat beside him, holding his hand, smiling sleepily. Mama says the tree called your name, she whispered. He looked around. The walls of the chamber pulsed with life, glowing vines breathing slowly like lungs. The elder stood nearby, his silver fur reflecting the soft light. The forest has judged, the elder said. Your sacrifice restored the pact. The bond between our kinds lives because of you. Ethan struggled to sit. Then the war? The humans pulled back, Soraya said, stepping forward. Without their cannon, they can't break the tree's shield. They will leave us for now. Ethan nodded slowly. For now, the elder's eyes gleamed. You cannot return to them. To your kind you are dead, to us, you are part of the living world. Ethan looked at his hands. The faint glow under his skin pulsed with the same rhythm as the tree. The trial's mark had become permanent, a bridge between two species. So what am I now? He asked quietly. Soraya smiled faintly. You are both. Human heart, Vulpine spirit. He looked at Valara, who leaned against his arm. And her? She will grow in both worlds, Soraya said. Your courage gave her that chance. Silence fell for a moment. Then Ethan looked toward the canopy above, where sunlight filtered through the crystal leaves. Maybe that's what it was all about, he murmured. Not war, not power, just family. Days passed. The forest healed faster than anyone expected. The rivers ran clear, the air sparkled with new life. Human ships remained in orbit, silent, uncertain. News of Commander Cross's final act spread through the channels of both worlds. Some called him a traitor, others a savior. But down in the valley, he was neither. He was simply alive. At dusk, he stood with Soraya on a hill overlooking the glowing horizon. Valara played nearby, chasing light flies. She looks happy, Ethan said. Soraya's tail brushed his arm lightly. She feels safe. You gave her that, he smiled. She gave me something too. A reason to stop running. Soraya looked at him, her eyes golden in the dying light. You could stay, she said softly. The forest accepts you. So do I. Ethan turned toward her. And Earth? Let them remember the man who stopped a war, she whispered. The rest of you belongs here. He reached for her hand. Her fingers curled around his, soft fur, warm touch. For the first time since the crash, there was peace in his chest. When the night came, the stars above Valis 9 glowed brighter than ever. 2 moons hung over the forest, one red, one silver. Between them, a faint light streaked across the sky, the last piece of the destroyed cannon burning as it fell. Valara pointed upward. Mama, look. The sky remembers him, Soraya smiled. It always will. Ethan looked at the glowing heavens, his voice low. No, he said. It remembers us. The wind stirred the leaves, carrying the soft hum of the mother tree, a melody that sounded almost like a heartbeat. Human and Vulpine together, bound not by law or war, but by the choice to protect instead of destroy. And somewhere, deep within the roots, the planet whispered the same word over and over, like a promise kept at last, home.